All right, let's get started. If folks join us, that's great, but I want to make sure we start on time here. So my name is Sarah Jane Huber. Welcome. I'm an Economic Opportunity and Development intern in the Community Development Department. And this is the Food Waste Reduction for Businesses webinar hosted by Economic Opportunity and Development Division. The division's housed in the Cambridge Community Development Department, or CDD as we call it. It's committed to building an inclusive and sustainable economy in the city of Cambridge. The division's responsible for a wide range of activities designed to meet the city's need for a vibrant, innovative, diverse, and thriving economic base that ensures economic opportunity for all. So if you want to learn more, I'll put a link in the chat. Welcome to explore our website. This webinar is part of the Food Business Incubator Workshop Series, which is a program of our Economic Opportunity and Development Division. In this series, we actually have 2 additional workshops coming up, one in May and one in June, that will be part of a green restaurant series. So more information on that will be shared on our website soon. I'm also going to put my email address in the chat in just a minute if anyone has any questions about that or anything else. But before I introduce our 2 guests here, I want to go over how this webinar will work. First, the webinar is being recorded and a copy of the webinar will be posted on our website. All attendees are muted and have video disabled, but the chat feature is available, so please use that to introduce yourself, ask any questions. Christina will be monitoring that and will raise any questions at the end. Or if there's a timely question for our guest, she'll interject. Kids and pets and bathroom breaks are all welcome. So if you need to step away, please feel free to do so. And we'll also have a copy of presentations that we'll share out later. Okay, so let's get started. It's my pleasure to introduce Abbey Massaro of RecyclingWorks, Massachusetts. She'll be kicking us off. And then Camilla Elvis of the Cambridge Department of Public Works will follow. Abbey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sarah Jane. And let me just pull this up here. And yes, thank you so much for having me, and hello, everyone. As Sarah Jane mentioned, I am Abbey Massaro. I am a waste reduction consultant for the Center for Ecotechnology, or CET for short. I've been with CET for about 4 years now, and before that, I worked for the Hall, our waste management. Being a waste reduction consultant just means that I get to meet with businesses virtually or in person. I observe how recyclables and/or food waste are generated throughout a restaurant, cafeteria, manufacturer, university, you name it. We can help and have probably met with a business in that sector. After our site assessment or waste audit, we put together written recommendations and provide continued assistance to the business to help implement their recycling or food waste diversion programs. So today I'll be talking about the ripe opportunities for food waste diversion in the city of Cambridge, the free resources available to you to divert wasted food right now, and share different success stories from all kinds of businesses. A little bit of background on who RecyclingWorks is. Today, I'm speaking to you on behalf of the RecyclingWorks in Massachusetts program. So RecyclingWorks is funded by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, or MassDEP, and delivered under contract by CET, the environmental nonprofit that I work for. Through this program, we provide free technical assistance, as I mentioned, walkthroughs or over the phone assistance as well, to help businesses support compliance with the Waistbands in Massachusetts and help businesses achieve really whatever other waste diversion goal that they might be. So Waistbands are materials that cannot be thrown away in the trash or arranged for disposal to be thrown away in the trash. Actually, many people are surprised to learn that waistbands like the cardboard waistband have been in place since the 1990s, and materials have been added to this list over time. This is not a full list on your screen here, but you can go to the link at the bottom of this slide. And as Sarah Jane mentioned, you'll be getting a copy of these slides and be able to access these resources. The most recent changes in November 2022, mattresses, box springs, and textiles were added to the list of materials that can't be thrown away or on the waistband. Also effective this past November was the reduction in the commercial food waste threshold. So previously, any business or institution that generated 1 ton or more of food waste per week had to divert food waste from the trash. Effective this November, the Mass DEP lowered that threshold to be any business or institution that throws away or generates a half a ton of food waste per week must divert that material from the trash. There are many ways that we can divert food waste, which we're going to get into in just a bit, but businesses can either find ways to reduce, donate, or recycle their wasted food. Would love to touch on the motivation for food waste prevention and diversion if you haven't already been convinced that this is important and pretty much a requirement here in the state, but there are other benefits and motivations to diverting our wasted food from the trash. So of course, as I just mentioned, there's a regulatory compliance aspect to this. So if you're a business that generates food waste, half a ton or more per week, then you must divert it from the trash. That can be quite a motivator. Next, like being green and showcasing your environmental commitment is a way to appeal to your customers, make your employees feel good about your business. And one thing to mention here is to avoid greenwashing. So always making sure that your waste diversion claims are substantiated. Your business might also have a sustainability goal. We hear that a lot these days, like a zero waste goal or waste reduction goal that's set in the future. And perhaps donating or reducing your food waste can help you reach that goal. Food waste, and last but not least, food waste prevention and recycling may save your business money. We'll see some examples of this later on in this session today. It's also important to talk about the broader picture and impact of wasted food before we talk about solutions for managing food waste at our businesses. In our state, in Massachusetts, we throw away 1 million tons of food waste per year, which equates to about a quarter of our waste stream. So they characterized our trash stream here in our state and determined that about a quarter of our trash is still food waste. This represents the single biggest opportunity when it comes to diverting waste from disposal. According to Feeding America estimates, there's more than 497,000 Massachusetts residents struggling with food insecurity. And these are people from all walks of life, including children, working parents, seniors, people living with disabilities. So the point on this section is that food that is grown, transported, packaged, transported again, and then put on shelves at stores or delivered to your businesses that goes uneaten or gets thrown away, wastes a lot of resources along that supply chain. So essentially, food that is produced and disposed of could be diverted to a higher and better use, which is why we're here today. And you might be thinking, well, how do I know if my business is generating a half a ton of food waste per week? Maybe you never thought of it or never looked at it closely before. On our website, we have a food waste estimation guide that has sector-specific calculations for how to determine a ballpark estimate of how much food waste you could be generating. This is broken out by restaurants, hotels, event venues, and we break this out for restaurants for limited and full service restaurants. So if you are a full service restaurant serving about 1,000 meals per week, you could be generating half a ton of food waste. And if you are a limited service restaurant serving about 2,000 meals per week, you could be generating half a ton or more of food waste per week. To help give you a visualization of what a half a ton of food waste looks like, we estimate that to be about 4 64-gallon carts picked up once per week. So you can imagine the carts that are pictured in the upper left-hand corner of this slide here. We were surprised when we did this calculation about how quickly a half a ton of food waste can fill up in these carts, and didn't really seem like a whole lot of material. So it is not as much as you might have thought. Always remember that RecyclingWorks is here to help. If you would like assistance navigating our website, or if you would like to request some of our free technical assistance by having us come out and do an assessment at your business, or would just have a quick question over the phone, or would like us to run through the food waste estimation guide with you, we'd be happy to do all of that. Our in-person or virtual assistance mainly takes the form of a walkthrough of a building. So we look into bins, assess different areas of your facility like kitchens, offices, break rooms, manufacturing floors, and evaluate how materials are currently being collected, transported, and then ultimately where they're placed in dumpsters, carts, or compactors where they're picked up by a hauler. And even if you already have a food waste collection program in place, we can still conduct one of our site visits and help you identify perhaps what foods and how foods can be repurposed or donated before it gets to the compost bin. And after our site visits, we develop written recommendations, and we customize signage for you, which we'll see an example of in just a few slides. So we did site assessments actually a few times over the last couple of years with the City of Cambridge businesses to spread the word about these small business composting and recycling programs. And we have Camilla here today who will be talking more about that in just a little bit. But here's some photos from our site visit days. During one of these weeks, we visited over 40 businesses, and we talked about energy conservation and waste reduction. So this was a really nice collaborative effort with the city that led to hundreds of tons of food waste diverted for anaerobic digestion. So great job already, Cambridge. Maybe you've seen this graphic before. I have to include it every time I speak because this is how we categorize our recommendations when we meet with food businesses. This is the EPA food recovery hierarchy, which prioritizes food recovery strategies from the most preferred to the least preferred. And I'm going to run through each level of this hierarchy, as we have step-by-step guidance documents on our website for how to develop different food recovery programs and business examples as well. We can help businesses at really any level of this hierarchy. And if a business is more comfortable collecting food scraps for composting before developing a food donation program, for example, we can certainly do that. We just typically structure our recommendations this way. The EPA prioritizes these strategies in this way because the strategy at the top of the hierarchy, or source reduction or overall food waste prevention, has the greatest impact on your business's bottom line, so saving money, as well as the greatest environmental impact. As we always say, prevention or preventing waste is the ultimate thing we can do for the environment, has the greatest impact. So source reduction is preventing food waste before it begins, and it's usually the most common prevention or food recovery strategy that we see in the field because it's the most cost effective. Overproducing meals leads to waste, and that costs businesses money. So the main suggestions that we have here for businesses are to track your waste. If you have no insight into where, why, and how food waste is being generated at your business, you can start by doing a really informal tracking of it. The EPA has a downloadable logbook that you can use to record when food loss happens or when food is coming back from customers as plate waste. For example, a brewery we assisted in Rhode Island called Wampanoag Brewery had staff scrape plates. Plate waste that came back from customers into clear tubs. And they were able to see, hey, our customers are wasting a lot of fries. It's not really a good item to travel home with, I guess. I don't really get it because I take my fries home. But they were noticing a trend here with a lot of fry plate waste. With this, they adjusted their portion sizes, served less fries. They saw less fries coming back from guests in the form of plate waste. So they ended up saving on purchasing costs and waste disposal costs because they were paying to have that material hauled away. Another really big source of food waste is from trim waste, from fruit and vegetables and meat. Some waste is truly inevitable and is a really great outlet for composting, anaerobic digestion, or animal feed. Otherwise, as much as we can prevent as possible is always best. Teaching your staff proper knife skills to make sure that they're using the entire carrot all the way up to the stem, or they're not leaving a quarter of a bell pepper on top. Proper knife sharpening training as well is always a best practice as preventing food waste from being tossed if it doesn't look appetizing, if it's cut with a dull knife. So one business that we worked with in Washington, D.C., I should mention that CET works with businesses across the country to prevent food waste from happening. And so we're able to take stories from all over the place and bring them back to Massachusetts, which is always great, and vice versa. Share Massachusetts stories with businesses across the country. So Chef James, pictured here, really takes a lot of pride in his creative food repurposing strategies into new meals. Chef James processes whole chickens on site and uses every piece for some of his creations. For example, maybe the less popular parts of chickens like feet, neck, bones are used to make confit and collagen soup. They use late harvest asparagus into miso soups. Mealy apples are made into a spicy pepper topping for chicken. And Chef James noticed in just 15 months of implementing and tracking this creative repurposing program, Shibuya saved nearly 10% in purchasing costs. So it's a really fun story I like to share. And maybe some of you are familiar with sauce in Boston. And a note here is that food waste from prevention can be as simple as leaving potato skins on fries. It's a quick and easy prevention strategy that ultimately saved sauce about $780 in hauling costs by serving their award-winning fries with the skins on. Next on the EPA food recovery hierarchy, after prevention of food waste, we have food donation. We have these resources on our website to help you visualize what a food donation program looks like and all the best practices for developing this program and working with a local food rescue organization. We also provide a note on tax incentives. So if you donate food to a nonprofit, and you get a donation receipt, you can use that on your taxes, as well as liability protection. So in Massachusetts, we are protected at the state and federal level for donating food in good faith to nonprofits that redistribute the food to meal sites and shelters and so on. So as long as you, the food preparer, are keeping your food temperature safe and are maintaining it in the same way that you would to serve it to a customer, you are liability protected on that front. So we can certainly help businesses, even if you're already donating, let's say, desserts and breads. And if you want to expand that to prepared foods or other products, we can certainly help connect you to the several local food rescuers in Cambridge. And food donation is usually free. So another benefit to food donation. Each Peach is a medium-sized grocery store and deli, and they have all the food recovery strategies working together. Most notably is their use of a vacuum sealer to save up food waste from their deli so that they can use it in future meals. So for example, they save cheese scraps, such as the ends of a cheese wheel, until they have enough to make a queso dip for their refrigerated case. So they created a whole new to-go item with their wasted food. So that was a really great story. They also have a compost collection that you see in the center here. And we connected them with Food Rescue US, who is a food rescue provider in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Washington, D.C. So they're able to collect their sandwiches, salads, soups, and other cold produce for the local food insecure community. Another unique thing, or actually not unique thing that Each Peach did, that actually we see a lot of restaurants and grocers do, is sometimes collect cold produce for their employees to take home. So maybe it's just slightly imperfect that they don't want on their shelves. They can give it away to their staff to take home and cook with. Next and last on the EPA food recovery hierarchy after food donation is source separation, or collecting our food scraps separately from the trash so that they can go to an anaerobic digestion facility, a compost site, or an animal feed operation. So we have a source separation guidance on our website, and it shares all the recommended practices for collecting food scraps, such as kitchen food scraps should be collected in dedicated receptacles at its generation point. So at a dish scraping station or at a prep station. And they should be kept separate from other materials as they're transported outside to be placed in carts or dumpsters or a compactor where they're then picked up by a hauler. And the typical containers that are used to collect food scraps at prep stations are these clear Lexan style containers, as you see in the top left-hand corner of this slide. These containers should have no leaks. They should be washable and emptied at the same frequency that trash is emptied from all indoor areas and outdoor areas. The Lexan containers can also be emptied directly into lined 65 or 96 gallon carts, which are really the most common carts offered by haulers in the city of Cambridge. And sometimes, businesses will also use buckets or barrels to store materials inside of their kitchen and then transport it outside to the containers that are not wheeled into the kitchen. So oftentimes they're also just kept outside. And in Cambridge, our food waste goes to an anaerobic digester, which is great because we can line our carts with clear plastic bags or compostable bags, and that can really help keep the carts clean. The anaerobic digester pulls any non-food items out of that stream. So clear plastic bags are not a problem. And I like to show that anywhere you are now or anywhere you end up in Massachusetts, we have, for the most part, capacity to divert our food waste to animal feed operations, compost sites, or anaerobic digesters. So this map pinpoints where all those facilities are in our state. We have a whole lot of them, so it's reassuring. Johnny's Luncheonette found that collecting food waste separately from the trash was successful, and when staff were thoroughly trained and have easy or equal access to food waste and trash bins at the same point. They use dishwasher safe bins and barrels as well, and they can also use 5-gallon buckets on the floor. But after Johnny's started separating food waste from the trash, their staff actually noticed fewer birds and squirrels and etc. around their trash dumpsters, which can be a really another common benefit of composting programs. Johnny's also received positive brand recognition for this program because they were nominated for a Mass Recycle award and they won. So that was another really great benefit of this program for Johnny's. They also share about their program through their signage that's outside at their planters. So their food waste goes to Black Earth compost, and then they use Black Earth compost in their landscaping. So it definitely closes the loop there for food waste diversion and recycling it back into the soil. I mentioned it several times, so you can always contact RecyclingWorks for help finding a hauler or recycler of different materials. This is a snapshot of the homepage of our website, and it highlights our Find a Recycler tool, which is right there when you go to our homepage, where you can search for a number of different materials by zip code and click search, and you will get a results page that looks like this. So if you're looking, for example, for a pallet recycler or a cardboard recycler, you can search that on our Find a Recycler tool. The results page can be a little overwhelming. So if you would like us to help you sort through who is listed there, we're definitely happy to do that. And there's many, many materials on there, from textiles, electronics, and more. I mentioned that we customize signage. These are our signage templates that are a place where we start when we're assisting a business. We customize these to be exactly what materials are found on site at the business. So if it's a vegetarian restaurant, we would customize this to be vegetarian food waste. And then if they're seeing common contamination, for example, maybe they would add produce stickers in the no section to make it really clear what the yes and no sections are. And these signs can be used as a training tool, so actually given to staff, and also used to label the food waste or recycling collection bins themselves. So we also offer translated versions, which is exciting. We recently translated our signs into Portuguese and Haitian Creole. So yeah, whatever you need for signage, we can help. I'm going to end on packaging waste in the food business realm. Especially with the last few years, we've seen an increase in the number of takeout meals. So we developed a resource to help business reduce packaging, as well as decide on what to use, because there's a lot of options out there. Maybe recyclable is better, recyclable packaging is better for your business, or maybe compostable is the route you want to go. Unfortunately, we see that a lot of outlets in our state do not accept compostable ware. So always ask your hauler or consult us as well before making this potentially expensive purchasing decision. As I've mentioned, and maybe you've encountered yourself, reusables are always environmentally preferable. And so I wanted to review a reusable container take-back program that's still in place since the pandemic and has been really successful. So maybe you've heard of Grain Maker. They're a fast casual restaurant in Boston and Somerville. And they implemented a zero waste project. And since then, they have seen a cost savings, and also their waste has been reduced. What they do is offer repeat customers a opportunity to receive orders in a reusable glass takeout container. They make a one-time purchase of a $10 32-ounce glass container, and then each time customers bring back their container, they receive a 5% off of their order. And when they place their new order, they receive a new sanitized container for that order. After just 30 visits, the customers break even from their initial investment, and then they reap the full savings of this discount. Single-use food containers represent such a significant cost for restaurants, and transitioning just a small portion of your customer base to reusable containers has made a measurable impact for Grainmaker. So in the first month of the program, Grainmaker sold 200 reusable containers, and over the course of the year, they approximately save about $800 and prevent 2,100 pounds of single-use packaging per restaurant per location. It's a really exciting and inspirational story there with Grainmaker of what's possible. This is my contact information. Thank you so much to Cambridge for having us present today. We're grateful for your partnerships and all of our ongoing collaboration for assisting businesses in Cambridge. So please contact me or use our information to call our hotline and ask questions or request on-site technical assistance. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions later on, but I'll hand it off now to Camilla.
All right. Thank you, Abby. It's always so great to hear about what CET is doing and the amazing resources you guys offer. I really encourage everyone to take advantage of these resources. They're free. The state is paying for you to be able to take advantage of this great stuff. So my name is Camilla Elvis. I work for the City of Cambridge in the Public Works Department as a solid waste program manager. I'm going to focus in on what the City of Cambridge can offer in regards to waste reduction. And that is by primarily the small business recycling and compost program. So I'll talk about both programs. I'll also touch on our recycling center that is open to small businesses, and also a little bit more about techniques to reduce food waste and single-use plastics. And I'll also include the link to sign up for our small business recycling and compost programs. And if someone is able to toss that in the chat while we're going, that would be awesome. If not, don't worry, it's in the slides at the end. You will get the slides. All right, so a bit of background about our small business collection programs. It's to support two city goals, which is to support small businesses and also to reduce trash. And we've been doing this for about 4 years, and we have 200 small businesses who are getting collection from us every week or twice a week. And we've heard great things from them. You know, it's reliable, well run, makes a significant environmental impact. And so I've put some of these quotes throughout the slides from small businesses. So the goal of supporting small businesses, how do we do that? That is primarily through this free service that we're offering for recycling and for compost. And so the collection is free, as well as the supplies like the carts. And we've heard from businesses that they're saving $200 to $1,000 a month. So we do not offer trash collection, but by providing free recycling and compost, businesses find that they are producing less trash, and therefore you can pay less for your trash collection. You know, we've got folks saying huge savings for our business, and we love to hear that. So the compost and recycling program basics, we pick up once or twice a week, and your carts, and we collect it in carts or in bundled cardboard. So that's for recycling, you put the cart, or we do not take dumpsters, and we do pick up at the curb only, so we don't go onto private property or loading docks for collection. You know, we've got cafes and restaurants saying that it's saving time and energy and money, and that's great. So for the recycling program, as I said, please put the materials loose into the cart, or package up the cardboard, either nesting it in boxes like that on the side or bundling it up somehow. And we offer flyers, recycling flyers translated into Spanish, Haitian Creole, Amharic, Chinese, and Portuguese. All right. And so what do we take in our recycling program? We take metal cans and foil, so that includes aluminum foil, glass bottles and jars, plastic containers, paper and cardboard recycling. We do not take recycling bagged in plastic bags or plastic bags in our recycling. And we also want things to be relatively clean. So our compost program, why compost? Abbey did a great job talking about some of the environmental benefits and other savings. Some of the things we like to emphasize are that it deters rodents, and that is a huge part of the city's rodent control program. By taking the food and putting it into a heavy-duty locking cart, you're taking what attracts the rodents, and there's no longer in this buffet of overflowing dumpsters and carts. It's locked away, and it seals in the odors that draw them in. So another reason is to save money. So if you're a food service business, on average, you have about 50% of what your waste is food waste. And so that's a lot that we can get out of the trash for you. The other thing that Abbey talked about is there's the new food waste ban, and also, of course, fighting climate change. By taking your food out of the trash, you're no longer producing greenhouse gases, and in fact, you're creating clean energy in our program. We've got someone here saying that it's keeping rodents out of the trash and saving them lots of money. So, and a bit more about how it works. I've got these pink circles around the locks on each type of cart that I wanted to highlight. So we have two cart sizes. One is the 65-gallon on the right, and the 35-gallon on the left. As Abbey touched on, we want our compost and food scraps in bags, either compostable or clear plastic. So recycling loose, compost in bags, please. Translated flyers are in Spanish, Haitian Creole, Amharic, Chinese, Thai, and Japanese. So what to compost? We've got a picture here with lots of different things on it, and it basically just boils down to all food, meat, bones, dairies, is all included. And we also take coffee filters and coffee grounds and tea bags, as well as light paper items like napkins, paper towels, and butcher paper. What we don't take, things that are not those items of all food, coffee and tea, and napkins, paper towels, and butcher paper, and that includes heavier paper containers. So the Recycle Center is another resource that we have available to small businesses. It's open to residents and Cambridge businesses with 50 employees or less. It's open 3 times a week. And we do take the same sort of recycling that you would put in a blue cart. If you don't want curbside pickup, you can bring it to us. But we also are really a resource for the sort of harder to recycle items or things that need to be disposed of responsibly, like fluorescent bulbs, electronics, or plastic bags. And so you can bring them here. We do not accept trash at the Recycle Center, though. Okay, so I did also want to touch on, as Abby said, we want to reduce waste first before we're collecting it for compost. So here are some resources we've been told about and want to share with you. So we know that Cambridge businesses are using Too Good to Go. It's an app where you can put what is not going to sell by the end of the day up on and sell it at a discount as a surprise bag, and people will sign up to buy those. And so you get a little bit more money from stuff that you would otherwise have had to throw away. And we've heard good things about that. There's a campaign called Cut the Cutlery. So the idea behind it is to ask customers first if they want disposable items like knives, forks, ketchup packets, and things like that. There's sort of like opt-out things in Grubhub and things like that. Rethink Disposable is based in California, but they're doing some really great work. And they've helped businesses shift to more reusable items, less disposable single-use items. And they have a whole bunch of case studies where you can get ideas and see that businesses have saved thousands of dollars, and they have a not a food calculator, that's CET. They have like a calculator about your packaging and what you could be saving there. And then if you are interested in making that sort of shift to a more reusable system, but you need a bit of help with the financing for that, I would suggest looking into the $5,000 micro grants that the state gives out for programs that are around reducing and reusing and repair. They give them to small businesses they give them to businesses and municipalities. So I suggest checking that out. Of course, food donation, which Abby talked about, they can connect you with many great organizations too that we've heard from, Cambridge businesses that they use are Food for Free and Loving Spoonfuls. So basically, we want to work with you. We want to help you out. We've got these free services to get for your food waste and for your recycling. We're responsive. If we miss your collection, let us know and we'll pick it up the next day. We want to get this collected. That's what businesses have said about working with us, is that we're, amazingly efficient and reliable right out of the gate. Got a little picture of an indoor of a smaller compost cart, which is something that we heard from restaurants that they needed something to gather their food waste indoors before they take it out. And so they were able to use some of our smaller carts. So that's just one example of the ways we can work with you. Of course, Abbey knows some of the best ways to gather your food scraps before taking it out, and I encourage you to look into that as well. But that's all to say, we want to work with you. And when we asked their businesses in our programs whether they'd recommend it to others, here's some of what they said. I know that's a lot, but basically dramatically decrease the amount of trash, convenient and easy, cost-effective, reliable, prevent rodents, saves lots of money, and there's loads more. So I hope you'll join us and sign up for our small business programs. The sign up link is right here. And yeah, thank you for listening to our presentation.
Thank you so much, Camilla. Thank you, Abby. It looks like the links in the chat may not go through as URLs, so I'll make sure to email those to participants today afterwards, along with the presentation. And Christina, do we have any questions to ask?
We do. There was one that came up when Camilla was giving her presentation. And I think someone wanted to know, what is the best time to put compost and recycling out on the curb before the end of the night?
So is that a question for a small business or a question for a resident?
Yep, small business.
Okay. Yeah, so that's going to depend. That really kind of depends on the business. And once you're in our program, my colleague Deb will works closely with businesses to communicate when the correct time is to put it out. And it depends on which crew and which truck and where you are in the city. So for businesses, please, we'll definitely communicate about that.
Thanks, Camilla. I appreciate that. Do you think it would be okay if I include Deb's email address here, send it over to the person that raised the question, they can get in touch?
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
I just wanted to add that I was meeting with Cambridge businesses throughout the expansion of the small business composting pilot, and I heard raving reviews from businesses about how this program primarily saved them money, and of course they felt good about diverting this material from the trash. And so it was a pleasure to work with Cambridge businesses, and would love to continue working with Cambridge businesses on this program, because it is very unique for a city to offer food waste pickup to small businesses. I think you are the first in the state, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. We'll call you the first.
I haven't heard of anyone else in Massachusetts, so.
Do we have any other questions? I see that Deb is here and putting her email address in the chat, so I can include that in the resources when I send them out afterwards.
Camilla, do you still have the online portal? Is that just for residential compost pickup, where they can track when their pickup days are? I don't think it gets as specific as time of pickup, but is that still a reference for small businesses to use? Like a schedule online. You're muted. Like, wow, I really
yeah, sorry about that. It's only been 3 years of a pandemic and I'm still muted. But yeah, it definitely doesn't get as specific as time. I believe we have it on there for small businesses, but I'm not completely confident in that. But it is helpful. It does tell you, at the very least, it points out when the holidays are and trash collection is delayed a day.
So if other business owners don't have any questions, I have a couple questions. I'm sort of curious, if I'm a small business owner and I have got a super tiny space on Cambridge Street, and I am trying to figure out where I can take some first steps, right? Like I might not have anything in place yet, but I want to start. What would be some advice for just like some of the first simple steps that I can do to even start getting ready to have a system in place that meets some of these goals? Any advice for first steps or how to start thinking through some space constraint issues?
Yeah, I think I can. That's a really good question, Christina. Thank you. I think that we should celebrate all kinds of small wins. So even if we start, just if it's like a frozen yogurt place and we're just diverting banana peels, like that is a win in my opinion. I would say the first small step is to kind of do that personal evaluation of your business to identify where and why food waste is happening. I mentioned there's like a really simple way of tracking that, just pen and paper, and looking at actually the composition of your current trash stream. That is all that's in place. And yeah, it's small, certainly limited space can be tricky, but we find that there's always a way to store a cart for food waste or a cart for recycling, cart for trash. They can be staggered in front of each other. They can be put next to each other. I worked with a hospital that actually stored their food waste cart in one of their freezers. So you would think hospitals are very conscientious about being clean, and that worked for them. So they didn't have any issues there. So we get kind of creative. Certainly sharing services with your neighbor can also be a nice way to reduce the number of bins and sharing those services for recycling or compost. But certainly starting with that self-evaluation of waste, we can certainly help you do that as well to give our neutral third-party perspective. And yeah, that's why we're here.
Yeah, I think I don't have much more to add to what Abbey said, but I do think once you know where your waste is coming from, that's a really excellent exercise. And I would add, if you can share with other businesses, I know businesses already share dumpsters, and there's a row of shops on Mass Ave that recently was able to replace 2 to 3 dumpsters with a mix of our green and blue carts from our services, and they all were kind of stretched for space with it. They made it work. And the other thing I would say is that our 35-gallon compost bin in particular really has a small footprint. I would say it's like a 2x2 footprint at most. I'd keep that in mind.
These are really helpful suggestions. Thank you, friends. I was going to ask another question, and maybe if there is more to share on this just in the last couple of minutes that we have, but I am really curious about businesses sharing with each other. So I was really excited when you brought up this example, Camilla. Do you know if the city helps to foster kind of relationships between business owners, if they would like to maybe engage someone who's a neighbor and see if they can kind of help go in on stuff together? Or is it something that we offer pamphlets and information and advice, but we sort of take a step back from any of that matchmaking, I'll say?
I think it's kind of a mix. We try to offer it to businesses, and we offer the information. We've gone door to door to businesses, and when someone in a row of businesses is interested, we then try to encourage them. They're often a better person to communicate with the other businesses than like hearing straight from the city to join in on that. So we don't really have a formal process, but we certainly encourage businesses in our program to loop in their neighbors when they get started, or even if they've been doing it for a while.
That's awesome. And that makes a lot of sense. Okay, I have one last question and then I will step away. I've been monitoring the chat. I don't see any others coming in, so I'll ask my last one. I had a recollection that the city had free compost bags available. Do we still offer those? And where are some of the pickup spots if they're still available?
So we had free compost bags available as supplies last at the libraries, and we do periodic giveaways. They are really geared towards our residential program. They're 3 gallons size bags that fit in the little kitchen bin on your counter. I don't think they would be a good fit for businesses. For businesses, we really recommend the larger compostable bags or the clear plastic bags.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Camilla.
Well, thank you all so much. I'm also realizing I skipped one introduction at the beginning with Christina. Christina is an economic development specialist in the community development department, and she oversees and is sort of the visionary behind our food business incubator program. So thank you for those questions, Christina. If there's no other questions, I'll close out. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to put my email address in the chat, and I will follow up with folks who are in attendance to share some links and other resources. But we're really glad you could join us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for hosting this.
It was awesome.
Thanks,
Take
everybody.
Care.